When the whispers come, they won't sound like thunder. They'll come softly, almost kindly. They'll slip into your thoughts in the quiet hours of the night, when your heart is weary and your hope feels small. They'll say, "You've tried before. You failed before. Why bother again?" And that's when you have to remember who you are. Not what the world has called you, not what life has done to you, but who you are. You were not made to live beneath your own fear. You were not designed to crumble under doubt. There is something immortal inside you, something that refuses to die, something ancient and powerful that remembers every time you survived what was meant to break you. That part of you does not whisper. It roars. It roars with the memory of your endurance, with the courage that carried you through silent nights of pain and long days of waiting. The whisper will always come before the breakthrough. It will question your worth just before the miracle arrives. It will tell you that you are too late, too old, too tired, too broken. But you must know it lies. The whisper is the voice of fear pretending to be reason. It dresses itself in logic and calls itself truth, but deep down, you know it's not. You know that if you keep listening to it, you will shrink yourself until even your dreams no longer recognize you. So when that whisper says, "You can't," you stand taller, breathe deeper, and say with all the fire in your bones, "I will." Say it not once, but until your doubt trembles. Say it until your faith catches fire. Say it until your voice carries weight, until heaven itself leans in to listen. There is a power in language, and the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. You are not weak because you've been wounded. You are not broken because you've bent beneath the pressure. You are still here, and that means there is purpose in your breath. If you were truly finished, you wouldn't be reading these words. You wouldn't be fighting to believe again. Something in you still believes. That's the roar. That's the light that refuses to go out. Every person who ever did something extraordinary started with the same whispers you hear. Every artist, every leader, every dreamer had moments when they thought they weren't enough. The only difference between those who rise and those who remain silent is that one chose to answer back. They didn't wait for courage to feel easy. They spoke in the middle of fear. They said, "I will," even while trembling. You may not see the full road ahead. That's all right. Faith never promised clarity. It promised strength for each step. And each step taken in defiance of fear is an act of creation. You are building your future one I will, at a time. There will be people who won't understand your roar. They'll call it pride. They'll call it stubbornness. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Because they don't know the battles you fought to still be standing. They don't know the nights you cried and rose anyway. You owe them no explanation. Your roar is not for them. It's for the child within you who once thought they weren't enough. It's for the dreams that died waiting for your courage. And when you say, "I will," you're not just speaking into the air. You are commanding your spirit to rise. You are calling every cell in your body to attention. The world moves differently for those who know how to speak life into themselves. There's a sacred rhythm to resilience. It doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's a scream. Sometimes it's just a breath. But that breath matters. Each time you choose to rise, you teach the universe what you are made of. You teach the whisper that it picked the wrong soul to mess with. Remember, strength doesn't always roar in public. Sometimes it stands silent in the face of chaos, refusing to fall apart. Sometimes it looks like showing up when you'd rather hide. Sometimes it's smiling when your heart is still aching. The roar isn't always loud, but it's always there, alive beneath your ribs, waiting for the moment to be heard. You have to learn to trust that roar, to listen for it beneath the noise of doubt, the chatter of fear, the opinions of others. When life tells you to quit, when people turn away, when the road stretches longer than you imagined, that's when you reach deep within and call it out. I will. Not because you feel powerful, but because you refuse to let weakness write your story. You've already survived too much to believe you're powerless now. Every scar on your soul is proof that you've won battles no one else saw. The whisper says you're not ready. The roar knows you've been ready all along. And yes, it will hurt sometimes. Growth always does. But pain is the midwife of strength. Every time you rise through pain, you birth a new version of yourself. Wiser, bolder, more unshakable. That's why the whisper comes right before your turning point. It's the test before transformation. There will be mornings when your reflection looks like a stranger, when you wonder if you've lost too much of yourself along the way. Look closer. You haven't lost. You've shed. You've peeled away every layer that was never yours to carry. The roar is what remains. It's pure. It's holy. It's unstoppable. So walk with it. Carry it in your words, your posture, your presence. Let the world see what resilience looks like in motion. You are not here to blend in with silence. You are here to echo truth into spaces that forgot what hope sounds like. When you speak, I will, you awaken something divine, a force older than fear, stronger than failure. You align with every soul who ever refused to stay silent in the face of, you can't. And suddenly, the ground beneath your feet feels different. The air around you shifts. Life begins to respond to your declaration. Because the moment you choose to roar, everything that once held you back begins to tremble. The whisper loses its grip. The doubt begins to fade. And what remains is power, real power. The kind that can't be given or taken, only owned. And that's what this life asks of you. To own your roar, to believe in your I will. So completely that even the mountains move to make way for it. There comes a moment in every life when silence becomes too heavy to bear. A moment when the small voice that whispers, you can't, tries to convince you that surrender is wisdom, that dreaming is foolishness, that trying again is a waste of time. It sneaks in wearing reason's disguise, telling you to be practical, to stay safe, to accept what is. But something deeper inside you, something older than doubt, begins to stir. It remembers that you were not created to crawl. You were made to rise. Every you can't that has ever been spoken over your life has only been a dare, a divine challenge waiting for your answer. And your answer, bold and steady, must be, I will. Those two words carry a power that shifts atmospheres. They summon strength you didn't know you had. They pull courage out of the ashes of your disappointment and wrap your heart in steel. You will hear the whisper in the quiet corners of your mind when you are tired, when the world feels too large, when the road seems endless. It will say, you've done enough. Stop now. And you'll be tempted to believe it because it will sound so gentle, so reasonable. But you must remember, fear always speaks softly. It doesn't shout because it wants to blend in. It wants you to mistake it for truth. It wants you to settle, but you were never meant to settle. There's a fire living under your ribs that refuses to go out. It may flicker, it may dim, but it never dies. That fire has carried you through storms that others didn't even know you were walking through. It burned quietly when you lost faith, when you thought you had nothing left. It is your divine inheritance, that sacred spark of I will. So when your thoughts whisper that you can't, you must answer them like you would an enemy who underestimated you. You must say it with certainty. I will rise. I will endure. I will see it through. Not because it's easy, not because you feel fearless, but because your soul has decided. That's what power is. Decision. You don't need the whole staircase lit to take the first step. You don't need a crowd to applaud you to know you're worthy. The truth is, most of your battles will be fought in silence. Most of your victories will bloom in solitude. And still, you must speak life over yourself. You must become your own echo of encouragement. Because if you don't, the whisper of defeat will fill the space where your faith should be. There will be days when your strength feels too small to matter. You'll look around and see others running while you're still learning to crawl. You'll wonder why your progress feels invisible. But growth doesn't always shout its arrival. Sometimes it hides in persistence. Sometimes it looks like waking up and trying again after crying all night. Sometimes it's just breathing through another day. But every breath of endurance is a declaration. I will. The whisper wants you to forget how far you've come. It wants to erase the evidence of your resilience. But think back. Every hardship you thought would end you didn't. Every heartbreak that made you question your purpose became the soil of your wisdom. Every failure that tried to define you turned into the foundation beneath your feet. You have been reborn from your own ashes too many times to believe you can't. When the whisper says you're not ready, remember that readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. No one ever feels ready to climb mountains or face giants. You go anyway, trembling if you must. You take the step, you open your mouth, you do the thing that scares you. And as you do, the whisper begins to fade because action is the enemy of doubt. Movement drowns out fear. The power of I will is not just in the words themselves, but in what they awaken. They summon every dream you buried. They call forth every prayer you whispered when no one was listening. They stir the sleeping parts of your spirit and tell them it's time to rise. And when you speak those words, heaven listens. The earth responds. Creation recognizes the sound of determination. Don't wait for perfect conditions to begin. The whisper will tell you the timing isn't right, that you need more experience, more approval, more certainty. But perfection is just fear wearing perfume. It smells sweet, but it suffocates you slowly. Begin where you are with what you have. Begin afraid if you must, but begin. There's a quiet rebellion in refusing to quit. Every time you choose to try again, you are performing a sacred act of defiance. You're telling the universe, you may shake me, but you won't silence me. The whisper wants you small. It wants you safe. But greatness was never born from safety. Greatness was born from the wilderness, from the struggle, from the places where only faith could guide you forward. When you say, I will, you are rewriting your own prophecy. You are telling your future who's in control. And the moment you claim those words, something inside you aligns. Your heart, your will, your purpose. You stop waiting for someone else to believe in you and become your own proof. You will fall sometimes. You will stumble, doubt yourself, question your strength. But that does not mean you are weak. It means you are alive. It means you are daring enough to try. And as long as you have breath, the story is not over. The whisper can't end what it didn't begin. Listen closely, the whisper will fade, but the roar will grow. It will rise from the pit of your soul, from the fire of your scars, from the memory of every time you survived the impossible. It will fill the space between what you fear and what you deserve. It will remind you that you were never a mistake. You were never too much or too little. You were made exactly as you are to declare your existence with power. So speak it again until your heart believes it. Speak it until the air around you vibrates with conviction. Speak it until the world understands that you were never here to whisper your way through life. You were here to roar your way through it. Because when your thoughts whisper, you can't, you will answer not in doubt, not in hesitation, but with the thunder of your spirit saying, I will. When you wake up to a world that seems intent on reminding you of your limits, when everything around you whispers that you are not enough, remember that greatness was never born in comfort. It was forged in resistance. The whisper that tells you you can't is not a verdict. It is an invitation. It is the test before the transformation, the tremor that comes before the quake of breakthrough. Every time you hear it, you have a choice: to shrink or to rise. The ones who rise are not the ones who never feel afraid. They are the ones who answer fear with action. They are the ones who stare doubt in the eye and say, "You may visit, but you cannot stay." The whisper will try to convince you that your story has already been written, that your best days are behind you, that the mountain before you is too high. But you have climbed before. You have walked through storms that should have swallowed you. You've been the one to keep going when no one knew the cost of your perseverance. That whisper does not know your endurance. It has never met your persistence. It has never watched you rise from ashes that others thought would bury you. The whisper doesn't know how many times you cried and still showed up, how many times you broke and still gave, And because, you must roar back, IWill dies. When you say those words, they do not float idly into the air. They move mountains within you. They shift the energy in your bones. I will is a contract you sign with your own soul, a promise that no matter how long it takes, you will not surrender to fear's whisper. That's the difference between those who dream and those who manifest. One waits for permission. The other declares intention. There will be moments when you will stand alone in that declaration. The world won't echo it back. You won't hear applause or see immediate results. It may feel like your roar is lost in an ocean of silence. But silence doesn't mean absence. The universe hears what you say in faith. The ground begins to shift long before the miracle appears. Every time you say, "I will," you are calling destiny by name, and though it may not arrive when you expect it, it always answers. When your thoughts whisper that you can't, it's usually because you're on the edge of something new. The whisper is fear's final attempt to keep you where you are. It knows that if you take one more step, if you refuse to fold, you will become unstoppable. It's not a warning, it's a sign. The closer you are to change, the louder the whisper gets. Let that be your signal to roar louder. Sometimes your roar won't sound like noise. It might be a quiet decision. It might be the moment you decide to get up again, the moment you choose to believe that healing is still possible. It might be a single act of courage that no one sees, but heaven applauds. Roaring isn't always about volume, it's about intention. It's the vibration of faith that ripples through every corner of your being. Do not let the whisper convince you that you need to have it all together before you begin. No masterpiece started perfect. Every mountain climber began on the ground. Every victorious soul once shook in fear. The power lies not in perfection, but in persistence, in saying, "I will." When your voice trembles, when your knees buckle, when your heart questions if it's worth it. Because each time you say it, you are strengthening the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. And you are becoming something remarkable. Every scar you carry has wisdom etched into it. Every setback has sharpened your vision. Every heartbreak has widened your capacity to feel, to understand, to rise. The whisper may call them wounds. Your roar knows they are weapons. You've learned to fight differently now, not with anger, but with faith, not with panic, but with purpose. Let your life be the answer. Let every step you take echo your roar. Let every choice be a declaration that you will not be silenced by the small voice of fear. You owe it to the younger version of yourself who dreamed without limits, to the future version of yourself who will thank you for not giving up. Because there is power in those two words. They break curses. They rewrite stories. They turn waiting rooms into birthing rooms. They transform weakness into wisdom. They summon light in the darkest places. So when your thoughts whisper, "You can't," don't argue, don't explain. Just smile, lift your chin, and let your spirit roar through the stillness. Fash, I will. So when the world grows quiet and that small, trembling voice returns, when it whispers again that you can't, that you're not enough, that it's too late, remember this: you have already walked through what others never could. You have stood in the fire and refused to burn. The fact that you're still here means there is still purpose in your breath. Do not waste another moment asking for permission to shine. The same power that breathed galaxies into motion beats inside your chest. You are not a mistake. You are not too far gone. You are not finished. You are a living declaration of victory in progress. So stand tall. Lift your voice. Let the world hear the sound of your resilience. And when your thoughts whisper, you can't, don't whisper back. Roar. Roar until your fear remembers your name. Roar until your doubt bows. Roar until heaven echoes your words and the earth moves beneath your faith. Because you are not the whisper, you are the roar. And your roar says forever and always, I will.